Hello guys, I'm Vaishali Kekan from Vaishali's e-learning, and today we are moving on to the next chapter of physics, that is the gravitational force and fields. We are going to talk in detail about this chapter. First of all, let's talk about the basic concepts of this chapter, and then we will have a practice session on this chapter. So this would be a quick practice section at the end of this video. So let's start our discussion with the force field. The basic concepts we are starting from this chapter. What is a force field? Force field is a space surrounding an object in which the object exerts a force on the other object placed in the space. So if I have any object, let's suppose this is my Earth, right? This is an object. It is exerting a force on all of us, right? It is exerting an attraction force on all of us. So let's suppose here we have moon. So Earth is exerting attraction force on moon, right? So the moon is in the field of the Earth, right? Whereas if I have any star which is very far away from the Earth, this star will not be able to experience the gravitational field of Earth, or I can say the gravitational field of Earth for this star is very less, considering negligible, right? So it is the space surrounding an object in which the object exerts a force on other object placed in it. So let's suppose Earth surrounding, we have this much area where its effect or where it is exerting force on the other object. If any object is at any point inside this region, the Earth will exert some force on this object, right? So this is area. This area is called as the force field of Earth, right? Similarly, I can have the force field of any object. Now coming to the gravitational field strength, right? The gravitational field strength is the amount of force per unit mass acting on an object in the gravitational field. So it is the amount of force per unit mass, right? That is my gravitational field. When I have an object in the gravitational field, this is the object which is present in the gravitational field. So force per unit mass of this object is the gravitational field strength, right? So I will write it as gravitational field strength as force per unit mass. And which force it is? It is a gravitational force, right? So now coming to the figure, you can see over here we have a figure. Figure represents a model which illustrates the gravitational force field surrounding the Earth. You can see we have the different field surrounding the Earth, and you can see from this figure that if I am moving above the Earth, when I am moving away from the Earth, the gravitational field lines are farther apart, which means if the field lines are closer apart, which means we have higher force, right? If I have the field lines which are farther apart, so force exerted is less. So when I move upside from the Earth, I will be having the more space in between the field lines, and I can say the force between the object and the Earth would be reduced if I increase the distance of the object from the surface of the Earth. You can see we have the various vectors which point towards the center of the Earth, which means always and always all of the field lines are pointing towards the center of the Earth, which means the field exerted by the Earth or the force exerted by the Earth is attractive in nature. So I can say the magnitude will be weaker at a distance which is when the distance from the Earth's center is increased, and we are having the farther lines if I am going above height on the surface of the Earth, and all of the lines are pointing towards the center of the Earth. Now coming to the difference between two very important quantity which can easily be understood, and this difference is really important from the exam point of view as well. So mass and weight. The mass is the actual quantity of matter in an object. So if I am a person, I am having some mass, let's suppose I am having mass 50 kg. I will be having mass 50 kg when I will move towards the surface of the moon, when I will move at the surface of the Mars, when I am moved to the surface of the sun. So at every place my mass would be same. Whereas if I talk about the weight is the force of gravity on an object, right? When an object is experiencing a force of gravity, we are calling it as weight. So the force of gravity will depend upon the gravitational field strength. So gravitational field strength will be different for different bodies. If you are on the surface of Earth, you will be having different weight, right? If you are on the surface of moon, you will be having different weight. If you are on the surface of Mars, you will be having the different weight. Mass will remain same, whereas weight will depend upon the gravitational field strength, right? So now object which is undergoing the free fall, right? If I have an object which is undergoing the free fall, its weight will be reduced at that time. It will be observing a partial weightlessness momentarily, right? So Fg represent the weight and force which causes the object to accelerate the downward direction. Only I have one force acting on this falling object, that is the gravitational force, and thus this object is accelerating in the downward direction because I have only one force which is having the acceleration due to gravity acting on it. So when an object is experiencing a free fall or weightlessness, we have one force that is observed on it, that is acceleration due to gravity. So this is the reason why astronauts are experienced, they are taught, they are trained with the help of weightlessness. So astronauts are taken into the airplane in a height above, and when they move down they will experience a partial weightlessness. So this is how they are trained to move in the outer space, where they will experience a weightlessness condition. When the object is resting on a horizontal surface, the object will be having its weight in the downward direction, right? It will be, the object's weight will be having a downward force acting on the free surface, right? So the horizontal surface will be experiencing a downward force due to the object, and it is balanced by the upward force from the surface. This upward force that is present as a action reaction force to the downward weight force of an object. So I know if I have a surface, if an object is placed on it, this is producing a force due to the gravity. So this force is present on this surface. This object O is experiencing it is giving a force Fg to this surface S, right? So when it is exerting a force Fg on this surface, the surface will also exert a similar force, same magnitude force in the opposite direction, Newton's third law, and this force is called as the normal force, right? When the object is undergoing free fall, the force will cause the object to the accelerate in the downward direction is the gravitational force. Only gravitational force is acting on the object. When the object is stationary on a horizontal surface, we have the gravitational force, and in reaction to that we have a normal force. The third condition is that we have an upward force which is required to raise the object at a constant speed is equal to the magnitude of the object's weight. So now here, if this is the object, I want to place it in my hand and I want to raise it upward, right? So the object is putting some force in the downward direction which is equal to the gravitational force, right, or the weight. So object is putting a downward force which is equal to the weight of the object. Same equal force I need to have to move the body upward with a zero acceleration or with the constant velocity. So when I have the constant velocity and the object is moving upward, we have to apply equal force is equal to weight of the object to this object, right? So now astronauts aboard the International Space Station will appear to be floating as they move along. You can see in the figure, this astronaut is appearing to be floating as she is moving along. This is commonly called as the weightlessness condition, but here you must apply a better terminology to this condition, which is a constant free fall condition, right? And the astronauts are trained with the help of airplanes, with the help of mountain, hills, up and down movement will train them to this constant free fall motion. Now you can see the figure. Figure shows an object which is moving at a height with enough speed will fall at the same rate as the surface of the earth curves, right? So you can see if I have a higher speed, so the curve would be more. So you can see this thing in the figure. The average gravitational field strength is represented by G. It's a vector. So it is represented as the acceleration due to gravity, which is having the value 9.8 Newton per kg in the downward direction. So this is my average gravitational field strength. The magnitude of average gravitational field strength decreases at a distance from Earth's center increases. So when I move towards height, the average the gravitational field strength, the average gravitational field strength G, or I can say the acceleration due to gravity, decreases in value. So thus I can say the gravitational force will decrease if I move to a height, and my weight will decrease if I move to a height. So magnitude is smaller at a higher altitude, greater at the poles. So magnitude will become smaller when I move to a higher altitude. At a height I will be having smaller magnitude, as well as if I move to the poles of the earth is having the slight flatness at the poles of the earth. So here we will be having the smaller magnitude, right? So earth is having the slight flattened at the poles of the earth. So I can say here we will be having the different value of G as compared to the equator. So this is how the earth is. Over here it is flattened, so here this distance is less, this distance is more, right? So G over here and G over here will differ. So now coming to the law of universal gravitation, I will talk about it in the practice session as well, because we are going to talk about the various numericals based upon it. So the law of universal gravitation states as a force of gravitational attraction, always and always gravitational force of attraction would be there. There will be never the gravitational force of repulsion. So the force of gravitational attraction between any two objects is directly proportional to the product of the masses of the object, and it is inversely proportional to the square of the distance between their center. So Fg can be represented as G m1 m2 upon d square, where capital G is the constant of the universal gravitation, which is 6.67 into 10 raised to power minus 11 Newton meter square per kg square. So now force of gravity keeps the communication satellite in a stable orbit around the earth. If I want to send any satellite, if I talk about moon is at a constant distance from the earth, so it is moving at a particular orbit around the earth, and how moon is binded to the earth, how it is binded to its particular orbit with the help of the gravitational force only, right? Similarly, I can have some artificial satellites also. When they move in the orbit, there will be the gravitational force acting upon them. Coming to the friction. Now if I talk about friction, friction is actually a force which opposes the motion, or whenever I intend to move, there is an opposing force which is called as friction, right? So when there is a movement, or when there is an intention to movement, at both of the times I will be having friction. Coming to the static friction. Static friction is a force that tends to prevent a stationary object from starting to move. If I have a stationary object, right, this is the horizontal platform, this is an object. Now this object is placed over here, this is a stationary object, right? Now here I am applying a force on this object. So as soon as I start applying some force, I want to increase the force so that this object will start moving. Initially the object is stationary even though I am applying some force on this object, because the force is not as much as that much it has the opposing frictional force. So this frictional force, when the object is stationary, it is applied when the force is applied on the object to make it move, but the object is still stationary. This force is placed over the object in the opposite direction to the intended motion. So this force is the static friction force. So static friction force is a force that tends to prevent a stationary object from starting to move. This is not starting to move. This frictional force is acting in the opposite direction of the applied force. This frictional force is making the object to resist its motion, right, to not start movement. This frictional force is static frictional force. Now coming to the starting friction, the amount of force that must be overcome to start a stationary object moving, the amount of applied force that you are applying to make a static object moving, that much force is called as the starting frictional force. As soon as the body just start moving, that much force that I applied is a starting frictional force. Kinetic frictional force is a force that acts against on an object motion in a direction opposite to the direction of the motion. Now you are increasing this applied force, and after a certain condition, this applied force becomes so large that it overcomes the static frictional force and this body start to move. Again, when the body is moving, there is a horizontal frictional force, which is a kinetic frictional force, which is again in the direction opposite to the motion of this object. This is my kinetic frictional force, right? So now I hope you understood what is the static frictional force and what is the kinetic frictional force. The maximum of the static frictional force is always greater than the kinetic kinetic frictional force. Once the body start moving, it will try to continue states of motion, and thus the body will be having less kinetic frictional force than the maximum static frictional force. So now if I have a surface, two surfaces, I want to reduce the frictional force in between them, right? So I will be using the ball bearing. Balls are having the very less surface area of contact. This frictional force is directly proportional to the surface area of the contact. If I have more surface area in contact, I will be having more roughness which are there in the contact. Whereas if I have a ball will be having a connection at the surface at just a single location, at just a single point. So ball will be having lesser surface of contact, so balls will be having lesser friction. Ball bearings are used to reduce the friction in a wheel. So always and always wheels are in the circular form. Why? Because the point of contact of the wheel to the earth is very less, right? So the frictional force would be less. Frictional force act in a parallel to the two surface in contact in a direct direction opposite to the motion or attempted motion of an object that we know. The frictional force will always be acting in a direction opposite to the movement of the object or the intended movement of the object, and it will be always parallel to the two surfaces in contact. Right here, this direction is parallel to the two surfaces in contact, and thus I made the frictional force like this. Now coming to the coefficient of friction, based upon which we will solve some questions as well. So coefficient of friction is represented as mu, which is the frictional force upon the normal force. So Ff upon Fm represents mu. Now we have two types of coefficients of friction. First is the coefficient of kinetic friction, and the second is the coefficient of static friction. Coefficient of kinetic friction is represented as mu k. It is Fk upon Fn, which is the kinetic frictional force upon the normal force. So now kinetic frictional force, I know when the body is in movement, when the body is having motion, then I will be having the coefficient of kinetic friction, because that time only I will be having the kinetic frictional force. The normal force will be there on the object always and always. The coefficient of static friction is mu, as it is represented as the static frictional force upon the normal force. This coefficient can be determined using the controlled experiment. So we know the coefficient of kinetic friction for some cases, we know the coefficient of static friction for some cases. You will see when I will be discussing about the numericals, you will see that I am using the coefficient. Now there must be a question in your mind that how I can find out what is the coefficient of friction for a particular surface. We will find out using the controlled experiments, using which a horizontal applied force is used to move an object with constant velocity across a horizontal surface. When I am applying a horizontal force on an object, it will tend to make the body move with a constant velocity, and this applied horizontal force is now calculated, and it is used to find out the coefficient of friction, coefficient of static friction as well as coefficient of kinetic friction. The extent to which the certain factor affect with friction, such as the type of surface in contact. If I have two rough surfaces in contact, then I will be having more frictional force acting on the surface, right? So the coefficient of friction would be more in this case, right? So if I have the higher mass of the object, the mass also frictional force will depend. It can be also determined using the controlled experiment, that on which surface what is the coefficient of friction and which mass I will be having what is the coefficient of friction. So I hope you understood this. Now let's move on towards the practice session. So let's start our discussion with the first problem from the chapter 3. The maximum train load pulled through the channel, the train tunnel under the English Channel that links England and France is 2434 ton. Determine the force of gravity on this huge mass. So mass is given in tons. First of all, we have to convert it into the kg. For conversion, we will be multiplying it with the factor 1000. So mass can be represented at 2.434 into 10 raised to power 6 kg. We know the acceleration due to gravity has a value 9.8 Newton per kg. So now when we put the formula Fg, the force of gravity is equal to m into g, which will be equal to 2.434 into 10 raised to power 6 into 9.8, right? So now the answer would be in Newton, because it's the force and it will be in the downward direction, right? So answer would be 2.4 into 10 raised to power 7 Newton in the downward direction. Now coming to the second problem, it states calculate the weight of fully outfitted astronaut who has a mass of 150 kg on moon. The mass on the moon is given, the weight is equal to the force due to the gravity, right? Weight is not equal to mass. When mass is multiplied with the acceleration due to gravity, we will get the weight. So mass is given, acceleration due to the gravity on moon is 1.6 Newton per kg. We will just multiply it 150 into 1.6. So this would be in the Newton. So when you calculate it with the help of the calculator, you will be calculating 2.4 into 10 raised to power 2 Newton in the downward direction, right? This would be the force due to the gravity or weight. Now coming to the Newton's law of universal gravitation. According to the Newton's law of universal gravitation, the force due to the gravity or the force due to the gravitational attraction, it is always the attraction force. It is directly proportional to the product of the masses of the two objects and inversely proportional to the distance between the two objects, right? So if I increase the mass, the force of gravitation will increase, and if I increase the distance between the two objects, the force of gravitation is going to decrease. So how he computed this, how Newton computed it, he took m2 and d constant, then he varied m1 and he saw that force is directly proportional to m1. Similarly, he found out force is directly proportional to m2 while keeping m1 and d constant. Similarly, he found out force is inversely proportional to distance square while keeping m1 and m2 constant. So force of gravitational attraction is directly proportional to the masses of object and inversely proportional to the square of distance between their centers. Now based upon this, we have a question. Calculate the magnitude of force of gravitational attraction between the metal balls used in the men's shot put competition, each of mass 7.26 kg and whose centers are separated by a distance of 24 centimeters. So distance is given in centimeter. First of all, we will convert it into meter. So distance is 0.24 meter. We know the force of gravitation has a formula G m1 m2 upon d square. So let's put the value. G is 6.67 into 10 raised to power minus 11. It is the constant of proportionality, right? So when I remove this proportional sign, I will be having G. So now G is 6.67 into 10 raised to power minus 11. M1 and M2 is 7.26, so it is multiplied with 7.26 square and divided by d square, which is 0.24 square. So when you compute it, it will come out to be equal to 6.1 into 10 raised to power minus 8 Newton. This is the force of gravity between the two balls. Now coming to the coefficient of friction. What is the coefficient of friction? It's a number that indicates the ratio of magnitude of force of friction between the two surfaces to the magnitude of force perpendicular to these surfaces. So I have two surfaces. There would be some force of friction which is acting in the reverse direction of the applied force. So if applied force is in this direction, force of friction will be in reverse direction. Force of gravity will always be in the downward direction and the normal force will be in upside direction, opposite to the force of gravity. It is always perpendicular to the surface, right? So mu is the coefficient of friction. It is given as force of friction divided by the normal force. So Ff can be represented as mu into Fn. So now we have two types of coefficient of friction: coefficient of kinetic friction and coefficient of static friction. Now coefficient of kinetic friction is lesser, so that I will be having lesser friction while the body is moving in the motion, and the static friction would be higher than the kinetic friction. So mu k is Fk upon Fn, where Fk is the kinetic friction, and mu s is the Fs upon Fn, where Fs is the static friction. Now coming to the problem, it states in the horizontal starting area of a 4-person bobsled race, the 4 athletes with a combined mass including outfit of 295 kg exert a minimum horizontal force of 41 Newton to get the 315 kg sled to begin moving, right? So this is the amount of force they are requiring to move the sled. After the sled has traveled for almost 15 meters, they are going to jump into the sled, and sled experiences a kinetic friction of magnitude 66 Newton. Determine the coefficient of static friction and kinetic friction. So now I know from this diagram, you can see this diagram is at the stable position. Here Fn is equal to Fg, right? So Fn is equal to Fg is equal to mg. What is the mass? 315 kg of the sled, right? So g is 9.8 Newton per kg. Now I know Fs is also given 41 Newton. So Fn is equal to magnitude of Fn is equal to magnitude of Fg, right? You can see from here if I see just the magnitude, they are same. So Fn magnitude can be represented as the mass into acceleration due to gravity. So mass is 315, acceleration due to gravity is 9.8. So you will be getting 2.1 into 10 raised to power. Here I will be writing 2.1 into 10 raised to power 4. So now mu s is Fs upon Fn. Now I know magnitude of Fs, I know magnitude of Fn. So I am going to divide them, 41 upon 315 into 9.8. So it will come out to be 0.013, because mu is just a number, it is not having any units. So it can be represented simply as 0.013. Now coming to the next case, now here I need to find out the kinetic friction. So now at this time the people are on the sled. So the mass would be the combined mass 295 plus 315, which is 610 kg. So now again Fg is equal to Fn magnitude. So Fn is equal to mass into acceleration due to gravity. Now mass is combined mass 6110, acceleration due to gravity is 9.8. So this is in Newton, right? It is just the magnitude of the normal force. Now Fk is given, mu is magnitude of Fk upon Fn. So it will be equal to 66 upon 610 into 9.8, right? So it will come out to be equal to 0.001, right? So this is how you can find out the mu k and mu s. You can do the computations with the help of your calculator. So a truck's brakes are applied so hard that the truck goes into skid on the dry asphalt road. If the truck and its contents have the mass of 4.2 into 10 raised to power 3 kg, determine the force of kinetic friction on the truck. Mu k we know from the table which is given in the book. Mu k is 1.07, acceleration due to gravity we know, mass is given. So Fn is equal to mg. We can calculate Fn. Fn is equal to total mass 4.2 into 10 raised to power 3 into 9.8. Now we know Fk. Fk can be represented as mu k into Fn. So Fn we know, mu k we know, Fk will be equal to mu k is 1.07 and Fn is 4.2 into 10 raised to power 3 into 9.8. So now you can do the computation with the calculator and it will come out to be 4.4 into 10 raised to power 4 Newton, right? And the force of kinetic friction is opposite to the direction of applied force. I hope you understood all of the things for this particular video, and I hope you are going to download Vaishali's e-learning mobile app and you are going to get connected with us on our different platforms like Instagram as well as LinkedIn. So if you have still not subscribed our YouTube channel, it is highly recommended go and subscribe the YouTube channel so that you will get the instant notification about the next videos. Thank you so much.